welcome to everyone in the room to our GP KIX EMAP Hub Skill Strengthening Workshop on Monitoring the Right to Education. The Global Partnership for Education, Knowledge and Innovation Exchange, EMAP Hub, works with 38 countries in Europe, the Middle East, North Africa, Asia and Pacific region, supporting these countries so that they have and use the research evidence they need to accelerate access, learning, and educational equity outcomes. The Hub does so by surfacing and amplifying knowledge and expertise that already exists in the EMAP region. Our EMAP Hub is hosted by NORAG, the Global Education Center in Geneva, and is part of the wider GP KIX program implemented globally by the International Development Research Center in Canada. The workshop today is the second in our series of skill strengthening workshop. This series aims to strengthen relevant skills for evidence-informed policy planning and practice, and to strengthen practical, concrete, and applied knowledge for EMAP experts to carry out relevant analytical tasks in their educational work. An educational work that is guided by our underlying understanding that education is a human right. This two-day workshop will provide all those in the room with an opportunity to learn more about how to monitor the right to education in practice. To achieve this goal, our hub is partnering with the Right to Education Initiative, which is a non-governmental international human rights organization dedicated entirely to the promotion and defense of the right to education. We will have, as I said, a two-day workshop. The first one today is focusing on the basics for monitoring the right to education, and the second day, tomorrow, focusing on the monitoring of a particular dimension of the right to education. It is then my pleasure to introduce you to our three workshop facilitators. Delphine Dorsey, who is the director of the Right to Education Initiative. Raja Kumari Michael Sami, who currently leads the Early Childhood Care Education Program at RTE, and Juliana Lima, who has been collaborating with RTE on various research and monitoring projects, and is project manager on monitoring and advocacy. I invite all participants today to take the most of these 2 days to listen, learn, but also to share, question, and comment, so that the workshop can truly strengthen skills, but also knowledge on this very important dimension on the monitoring of the right to education. With that, I hand over to Delphine, Raji, and Juliana to walk us through our workshop. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, José Luis, and on behalf of all RTE team today, so Raji and Juliana, we are very pleased to do this workshop with you on monitoring the right to education. I will mainly go through the presentation today and the different topic we would like to cover, and Juliana will help us with the interactivity activity we have planned for you, because this is a workshop, so we want you to contribute. And Raji will be also there helping on the chat. So as José Luis said it, please do share your question, comment, share your story from the ground. If we can address it during the workshop in the chat, we will do it. Otherwise, we will follow up either tomorrow, in the workshop, or as a follow-up email on some question we may not have time to cover. I said that because we have just 4-hour session, 2 hours today and 2 tomorrow. And there is a lot to say and to discuss about monitoring the right to education. So there may be some follow-up question. Just to say, so before I go into the content and the presentation, I'm someone who tends to speak too fast. So I'm going to try to slow down as much as I can, especially because I know there are translation and some of you are getting the translation. In case it goes too fast, there is a magic tool on Zoom. If you click on the heart, react, you have an option I'm going to click, which is called slow down. And so if you click on this, it's appear on my screen and I know I need to slow down. So, so I think this is okay. Now I know. It's going to disappear, no? Also, I would like to say how I'm happy to see there are different actors joining this workshop. At RTE, we really do a lot of effort to build bridges between different disciplines. So between human rights, education, and development. So this is what we are going to bring to you today, is this human rights dimension. And we build bridges as well between different actors. So we work with civil society organizations. This is our main partner, but we work with UN and intergovernmental organizations. We work with CIS, we work with academics, and we know the added value of having all these groups working together to achieve the realization of the right to education. So really happy to have you all together in this workshop. So the aim of today is to go back into the basics of the right to education and monitoring the right to education. So monitoring education from a human rights perspective, because we need that to really go back, continue tomorrow in depth in the specific topic we want to discuss and go in depth in all the tools for monitoring the right to education we will present today and start to navigate. So we will share and you will see, like, we will really go into specific tool. We will show you things online. We will share resources for your information. All the resources we are going to share today will be shared with you in a separate document. We will also share with you some worksheets so you can work on it from your own perspective, because some of you are working at state level, others are at school level, others are researcher, civil society organization, either national or local. So you will have some guidance on getting the information you need for your monitoring project from where you are. And for our partner who are speaking in Arabic, we have our website in Arabic and we have some resources in Arabic. So this will be highlighted as well in the resource we share with you. So just flagging that. That was for the introduction. So today we will focus, as I said, on the basics. We will do a first part on the right to education. So just reminding us together about the legal framework for the right to education and the content and state's obligation and the specific information you need to monitor from a human rights perspective. Just to flag before we get into this now, we are not going to go in detail because this could be like a 1 week, 2 week training session. So we will highlight some key information for you to have in mind, and we will redirect you to some resources where you can get more information on each of this on this topic. And if this is not enough and you have a specific question on a specific dimension we are going to discuss today, we will share additional information to you. So I hope this will be fine. And saying that, I'm going to share my screen and my PowerPoint. So while I'm doing that and I share the presentation, I'm not going to be able to see then the question in the chat, but my colleagues are going to help me with that. So here we start. And actually, we start. I should not share my screen. We are going to start with a question and starting with you. And so I'm going to stop to share my screen because actually Juliana is going to share the exercise we are going to do now with you as a start to kick off and warm up a bit. You need to open your microphone, right, Juliana, if you want to speak.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to be here with you today. So as my colleague Delphine said, we are going to have some interactive activities with you. Our goal is to get everybody to participate as much as possible. So what I would like you to do to know, first of all, is if you see my screen, is everything all right? No, you don't see my screen.
We see your screen, just not on slideshow, but we see it.
Yeah, that will come. So first thing I would I want you to flash this code. So you can see in my screen there is a code. If you flash it with your phone, you will be able to join the poll and then answer this first question to kick off our meeting. Why monitor the right to education? So you can write as many answers as you wish.
Juliana, we also got some responses in the chat. It's better learning quality, equity, accessibility, less crime.
Thank you, Raji.
Informed decision making.
So responses are off. So we can just have a quick look at what we have here. So we have, do you want to comment, Delphine?
Yeah, either way, but what I've noticed, there are interesting things, a lot of mixed things. It's moving a lot, but I know somewhere I was working to know, and I think this is important. No, we monitor to know. We need information. I think it was written as well to get information. In the chat is also like to inform decision making. We monitor to get information, and we collect data, we collect information, and then we make an analysis to take decision. And you highlighted, I see program effectiveness. Of course, like maybe sometimes it's to readjust what we are doing, to raise awareness, because if we are not aware about a situation, for instance, out of school children, we cannot mobilize around it. And I see many of you putting information about access from underprivileged, because when we have this information, we are able to take the proper measure to address any gaps in access to education. So I think it's important to remind for each of you why you are joining this workshop and why it's so important to monitor the right to education from your own perspective. I see accountability of the government as well. So there's a perspective of civil society organization working with the states. There are the states who have the responsibility to implement, and the researcher as well who are doing their in-depth research on a specific topic. So we will unpack all these things during the workshop. And the important things I want to flag is what we are going to do today is to monitor from a human rights angle. So we are going to take the legal framework as a basis for all our work. So the legal framework is your national legal framework, your constitution, your law and policies, and it's also your regional or international framework that defines the right to education. So us today, we are going to recall the international legal framework because this is a agreed framework, and because the national framework is different from each of you. But through the workshop, we will make the link with your own specific country and context. So I'm going to share again my screen, and we are going to take a bit of time now to go into this legal framework, because we need to agree on what we are going to look at, because this is what we are going to monitor against when we do the monitoring from a human rights perspective. So I'm sharing again my screen, my slide, and okay. And sorry, I removed the chat, so you are not disturbed with that. So the aim now is to understand education as a right. So just a reminder, it's a right, it's not a privilege. So it's not a goal or something we should achieve. This is now for everyone, and it can be withdrawn or denied. It's a universal right, so it's for everyone. We cannot left anyone behind. And it's applied in every context, everywhere. It's fundamental, that's why it's a human right, not only for the development of individual, but also for building fair, peaceful, and sustainable society. That's why it's so important. And it's an enabling right, so it's essential for the realization of other human rights. So just to say this have been codified, and recognized formally in the UN Declaration, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and then in different UN treaty bodies, and including, as I mentioned it, in national law, constitution, and legislation. So this helps us to know what the content of the right to education is, because it's codified and it's guaranteed its protection. And so what does it mean in practice? How this guarantees protection? When we say it's a human right, it means they are duty bearers. So it's mainly the states that have the obligation to implement the right to education. And we have right holders who enjoy entitlement and freedom related to the right to education. And this is all of us, is everyone. So the states, to implement the right to education, they adopt laws, policies, budget. The right holder, they enjoy the right to education. So the state, they are accountable to the right holder, and they can also have some responsibility to report about how they implement the right to education at national level to UN human rights mechanisms or regional human rights mechanisms if they are part of it. And on the other side, the right holders, they can claim their rights if they are not realized, and they can hold states accountable for the implementation of the right. And this can be done including through jurisdiction and mechanisms at national level and international level. And as I said, the important is like it's codified through international law or national law. And so we know exactly the scope and the content of the right in terms of right and obligation. So that's the most important things to understand from a human rights perspective. There are these two dimensions. Yeah, I see someone clicking on claim their right and all states accountable. That's important. So we are doing to make an exercise now on which text guarantees the right to education. And so I'm turning to Juliana and all of you to recall us which text. Juliana, your microphone is off.
We'll keep on working in the same Mentimeter. So if you have already flashed the code, normally you will be able to see the next question on your phone and you can type your answer. So the idea here is to have inputs on the texts that guarantee the right to education. And it's on, and you should be able to type your answers. If you have any difficulty, make sure you use the chat box on the Zoom. So which text guarantee the right to education? So we see Constitution, education policies, the CRPD, Article 21A, legislation. If you have any particular legislation or a particular text that you would like to share.
I guess Article 21, this one from, it was Pakistan, okay.
So I'll give you just a few more, one more minute.
I see Aegis G goal in the chat. Constitution. Auditing report? So this one, I don't think it's a text that guarantees the right to education, but I'm not sure what you are referring to when you talk about auditing reports.
So for those who cannot scan the QR code, you can see at the top of my screen, there is also, you can go to menti.com in your browser, and you can use the code that appears in my screen or in your screen, in your phone screen. Or you can use the Zoom chat, it's not a problem. So in the Zoom chat, we have Constitution, you have Child Rights Convention, education policies, SDG goals, 2 times, education law.
So I see comments from parents. So comments from parents won't be, is not a legal text or text that guarantees the right to education. As auditing report, the same. Maybe auditing report can help to monitor and to inform, but they are not legal text. Okay, sounds good, no, Juliana?
Yeah, I've just stopped the poll, so
Okay.
I'll keep it on, or should I hand it over to you?
No, it's fine. So as we see here, there are diversity of text. So you share example of international text as the CRC I see now. You share the SDG, which is an international text, but we are going to see there are difference between, for instance, the CRC and the SDGs. You mentioned national text, constitution, law, policies, which have different levels. So I'm just going to share again my screen just to recall you the difference among all these different texts, because it's important when you do your monitoring. Yes. Something is strange here. Okay. Sorry, there's something strange here. Okay. So this is just a summary of what you share. There are international instruments, either global or regional, and there are national instruments. On the international instruments, some are binding and some are non-binding. And this is important because they are not the same ways and level of protection and guarantee. So the treaty and convention, they are the strongest one, and states are bound by them and they have obligation related to them. And so there are only obligation related to them if they have ratified this treaty. So at your country level, you need to know which framework you are part of, which convention or treaty your country have ratified. So for the Convention on the Right of the Child, it's applied to all states because all states have ratified it except the US. But for the other treaties, there may be some diversion. So you need to check that. And the non-binding instruments, which are mainly declaration recommendations. So you were mentioning the Sustainable Development Goal. This is a declaration, is a political commitment. States are morally committed to achieve that, but there are no binding obligations. So when you do your monitoring, you need to assess that. And the states, when they have the obligation to report to UN mechanisms, is because of the treaty, not of the declaration and recommendation, despite there are some report as well, reporting mechanisms for SDG. And at national level, it's important to know like there are different protections. So the constitution is the strongest, and then the law, and then the policies. Policies change more often. So when you work on a topic and the states, the one of us who are part of Ministry of Education, you know, like you more regularly change the law, the policies, sorry, and to it's more flexible legal framework. Like laws, it need to be approved by the parliament. It lasts more time, and constitution don't change so much. So it's very important. You know your specific framework, what your constitution guarantee, what your law guarantee, and what are your existing policies, especially if you work on a specific topic you want to monitor when you do your monitoring from a human rights perspective, because it's this framework that is going to be your reference point. So we will share, we have prepared a worksheet for you to help you check what is the legal framework that apply in your country. And so, as I said, there are some instruments at international that are binding and others that are non-binding. So I'll go back to Juliana and to you to tell us what are the binding one and not binding one, because there are often confusion.
So now you have a list of 5 instruments, 5 international instruments. And what we would like you to do is to tell us which one of those 5 are binding instruments. You may have more than one answer. So if you go back to your phone and you look at your Mentimeter, you should be able to see the question. And even if you don't know, you can try to answer it, even if you're not sure. Good. I see some people have already participated, and I would like to encourage everyone to try. Good, good. I'll stop the poll now and let you comment, Delphine.
That's interesting. Initially, no one commented on Tashkent Declaration, so I was wondering if you know about the Tashkent Declaration. So actually, the ones that are correct here are the UNESCO Convention Against Discrimination in Education, the Convention related to the Statute of Refugee, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, because these are treaties that have been ratified by states. So your states may not be part of one of it. For instance, UNESCO Convention, there are only around 100 countries that are ratified. International Covenant, a bit more. But the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goal and the Tashkent Declaration, they are just political documents. So it does not create any obligation for states. And this is very important for you to know, because it's not the same implication for the implementation at national level and in terms of holding the states accountable for civil society organization. We are going to provide in the resource sheet we will share just after, link where you can check where your country, if your country have ratified. And actually, I wonder if I should share that now quickly. Do I have time? I think I may have time. Maybe I can show you quickly. This will be in the sheet. But let me just give me 1 second that I open it. Actually, I think it may be just useful I show you. You may know that already, but just you will have the link in where it is now. Ah, yeah, it's here. So you will see we will share different, there will be different, so I'm going to share my screen now. You will get everything in the resource sheet, but just for you to know, so you should be able to see my screen now, no? On the OSCE website, there are a place where you can check the ratification of your country. So like for instance, you choose your treaty. So let's say I'm going to take one, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, because this is very important for the right to education. So you choose it, and you see in blue is the one who have ratified. In this one, the light blue, this is just signatory. When they are signatories, they are not part of it. And in orange is no action. So actually, I see Bhutan, because I see someone in the chat shared about the constitution. And here you can see even all the treaty. So they have ratified the Convention on the Elimination of all form of discrimination against women, the Convention of the Right of the Child, because all of states have ratified it. And you have even, yeah, no, I don't know what the number is. And the Convention of Persons with Disabilities, they've signed it, but they are not part of it. Ah, no, it's ratified. Ah, no, it's not ratified. Ratified? No, yes, it's ratified as well. So the Convention of the Right of Persons with Disability in Bhutan, they ratified in 2024, so it's recent. So this is important when you look, and so we see where is the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. You see it's here, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and it's in orange, so it's not ratified. So you cannot use, there are no obligations related to this treaty. So it's always important to know the frameworks that apply to your country, and you can check that going to the link, and we'll share all this link with you. So I'm back to my presentation. So you will find that, because we will share the slide of the presentation as well, so you will get all this information as a reminder. And we have highlighted key UN treaty bodies, UN Human Rights Treaty, sorry. You need to know, like, some are general, so the Convention on the Right of the Child and the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. These one are general one on the right to education. And there are others that are specific. So here on the screen, you can see, for instance, the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, or the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities. If you are doing a specific work on this, or you know, you want to make a new law or implementation related to this specific group, you can refer as well to this treaty and their interpretation. I'm going to go there now because this is important for developing and implementing the right at national level. So here is the highlight of key binding instruments. And you will get in the slide as well the example of non-binding. So non-binding instruments are still useful for monitoring the right to education and to develop law and policies at national level, because it provides more guidance on it. And like, for instance, if you work on indigenous people, you can refer to the Declaration of the Right of Indigenous People that may provide guidance for you for developing your own law and policy at national level. There are recommendations of ILO and UNESCO on the status of teacher, for instance, if you work on this topic. We have mentioned the Tashkent Declaration on Early Childhood Care and Education. So this provides a lot of guidance for the implementation at national level, but it's not binding. So we've put the link, so I'm going to show you that as well, actually. We've put the link on, you can find all this information on our website, so I'm going to show you that now, actually. It was there. So this is our website. As I mentioned, we have it in English, but we have it also in Arabic. So if you choose Arabic, you will get information in Arabic as well. Can I go back to English? Yes. So on our website, you have a menu called International Human Rights Law. And here you can choose your level. So for instance, if it's United Nations, let's keep this one. And here you have the list of all international treaties. So we have a document called International Instruments Right to Education. If you click on it, you can get the list of all the binding instruments and the content, plus the interpretation. I'm going to explain you the interpretation, but we provide the interpretation for each treaty. And for each treaty, so let's say your country, you want a Convention on the Right of Persons with Disability, you can access the convention and any information related to it. So you can find all information on the website. And if you work, so we know we have some European country with us and some Arabic country, Asian as well, but Asian, actually, there are no binding instruments in Asia. But in Arab countries, there is the charter, Arab Charter on Human Rights, and here you can get the text as well and any information. And what I want to show you is on our issue page, so we have different topics. And so let's say, for instance, early childhood care and education, so you click on it. And here you will get at the bottom relevant international and relevant regional information. You will get all information related to this topic and the framework, international framework that apply to it. So that's going to be important. And we have one as well on marginalized group. So if you work on a specific group, let's say women and girls, you will have as well all the documents, legal framework, also by region that refer to this topic, and you can see what framework apply to you. So all this is available, and as I said, we'll share all the link to you. So this is interpretation. Sorry, I thought this was done. So interpretation is very important because, and also to guide your implementation, and also when you do the monitoring, because the treaties, they provide general framework. It's aimed to apply to all countries across time, and they don't go in detail about the implementation of the right. So UN treaty body, which are the bodies and the committees that monitor the implementation of international human rights law, they have developed interpretation of the right to education to provide guidance. And this is very important as well to look at when you do the implementation and monitoring. So we have highlighted some of them here. For instance, the General Comment 13 from the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, or the General Recommendation 36 from the CEDAW Committee, specifically on girls and women's rights. And all these references are in the sheet we are going to, the resource compilation we share with you. You may find information as well on the report published by the UN Special Rapporteur, especially the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to education. So they publish thematic topic where they also provide guidance for the implementation that can be very useful for the implementation, but also for the monitoring to assess how goes the implementation. And there are also guiding principles that have been developed around human rights, and especially on the right to education, that are non-binding instruments, but their interpretations, they clarify the international framework, and they can go more in depth on a specific topic. So you may have heard about the Abidjan principle, also available in Arabic. And this is more related to states' obligation, related to non-state actor involvement in education. So for the one who do the workshop on non-state actor involvement tomorrow, we'll discuss it. And there is a recent principle that have been adopted as well on the implementation of the right to academic freedom. And of course, the jurisprudence of court at national level and regional level, and sometimes international level, can provide guidance as well. So you'll find all them on our website, but just to show you how it looks like. So this is really, you see, this is a detailed document. There are a lot of information there, and provide guidance on different topics. So this is on girls, addressing gender-based discrimination in education. And so here they provide guidance. So it's very detailed, and there are always some recommendations. So for instance, see, you saw they said review and abolish law and policies that allow expulsion of pregnant girls. So this will be a recommendation. And if you look at this document, if for instance you are working on monitoring the situation of girls at your country level, you will know, like, one of your things to check is, have you abolished, for instance, the law and policy that allow expulsion of pregnant girls in your country, if this is still the case. So that's a very useful document for monitoring and implementation. And you'll find all, again, the link in the work documents we'll share. So this, I share it with you already. This is the website. I show you everything already. I don't see, just before I go in the content of the right to education quickly, is there any question in the chat, or can I continue? Okay, I don't hear anyone, so I guess it's fine. So here, again, as I said you in introduction, I'm not going to go in detail of the content of the right to education. I'm just going to give an overview for you to know if where to go and get more information. So content of the right to education. So where you can find in this international legal framework includes the aim of education. So this is really what the education is for. And it's not just about knowing on how to count and read. It's much more than that. And it includes, for instance, the promotion of understanding, tolerance, and friendship that are so important for developing peaceful society. So when you do some monitoring as well, it's important to check what are the aim and how the aim of education are taken into account in your legal and policy framework. Why this is doing things like that? Okay. And the content of the right to education, I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to flag it now, but there are all the information on the website. So this includes the right to equality and non-discrimination is what we said in the introduction. It's for everyone, so we should have no discrimination of any kind for anyone. The obligation of free and compulsory pre-primary education. Secondary should be available and accessible and progressively free. So I'm going to get into that now because this is very important. Higher education is the same, progressively free. There are also obligations regarding adult education if they are not received education where they were kids. Of course, there are obligations related to the quality of education, and this includes a wide range of dimensions, including infrastructure, teacher qualification. So you need to know exactly what this framework entails based on what is your focus when you do your monitoring. There are also the dimension of freedom for parents to choose education different from what the state is provided. And this implies as well the freedom for creating education institution different from the public one, but always in conformity with minimum educational standard established by the states and human rights in general, or academic freedom. So this is things you may know already, especially if you work on this topic, but it's important to always check what is exactly the content of this dimension when you choose to monitor a specific one. And you can get into more detail, including on our website and other resources. Oh, okay, sorry. So this is fine. And this is a summary, and you may have heard about the 4A's framework, but this is very useful when you want to assess the content of the right to education. You can check and monitor if it's available. So if there are sufficient school, adequate infrastructure, trained teacher and material to deliver education. You can check if it's accessible. So economically and physically, so I mean, is it free or affordable? Can people with disability, children with disability or any people can access it? Is it not too far away? And making sure we include everyone. Minorities, language barriers, so accessibility include all these dimensions. Acceptable and adaptable is more related to the quality of education. So this is where you are going to check if the content is relevant, if it's of good quality, if the space and the environment is safe, if the teachers are trained. If it's adaptable, this is very important because education should be context specific. So it needs to be adjusted for the need of a specific society in a specific country, context and time. And it needs to be adaptable to specific needs as well of students, for instance, students with disability. So this is a very useful framework to check and to monitor. And so just before we move to specific monitoring, there are things to just remind, because this is important when you are going to start to do your monitoring, is what's happened at national implementation. So there are the international and regional framework, and then there are, as I said, the implementation at national level, which is very important because international framework provide general framework, but then you need to develop the detail to your specific context and also to make the change over time. And this is where monitoring is going to be very important because you need to know what's the situation of your country, what is the content of a law. The law is still adapted to the challenge of your country and the current context. And so in order to make your law and policy evolve, you need to monitor. And when you monitor and when you are developing and implementing the right to education at national level, it's important to just have in mind like the legal framework and especially the international framework provide different, there are some variation in how you can implement it. So because of the challenge of the states and at the time of the adoption of the treaty, the drafters, they realized like they are challenging for states to realize all dimensions of the right to education at one moment. So there's this notion in human rights law of progressive realization for economic, social, and cultural rights, and so especially for the right to education in our case. And so, as I mentioned, for instance, free secondary education, free higher education may be made progressively realized. While for primary education, it should be directly implemented right now. Improving the quality of education takes time. For instance, now with all the impact of climate change and the need you may have to do to adapt your infrastructure, it takes time. You need to mobilize resources and it takes a bit of time to make the adjustment, for instance, to have more adaptable infrastructure, more responsive infrastructure. So there's this notion of progressive realization. So when you do your monitoring, so as a state, when you take some decision on what to choose first, and for civil society organization, when you want to hold the states accountable, you need to have this dimension in mind. And especially because there are things that need to be done now. So there are some dimensions of the right to education that need to be addressed right now. So for instance, ensuring non-discrimination, providing free and compulsory primary education, ensure parental freedom, as we described just before. But in any case, even there are some progressive realization, there's still an obligation to take immediate step now to move toward the full realization. So this is very important. States have to make the maximum, all the efforts possible to mobilize the maximum available resources to allow for the implementation of the right to education. They need to prioritize some dimension I've just mentioned. They need to prioritize as well and to protect the most vulnerable and marginalized. So if there are restrictions in the budget, they need first to start with the ones that are most in need, the ones who are really, who have no money to pay for education, for instance, at higher level, or are really left behind. And so we need to invest in development of law and policy for the implementation. And they cannot take retrogressive measures. So, for instance, they introduce free secondary education and they decide to change. They cannot do that without any justification. So, any progression makes some steps. You cannot go back. And if you go back, for instance, because you are facing a conflict or there are no money, anything needs to be justified. You cannot go back without justification. Okay, so just before we move to, we are going to move now to more the monitoring dimension, but I would like just to pause for a minute to see if there are any questions. So let me, if there are any questions in the chat or anything I should respond or question based on what I've said. And again, I know we went very fast on that and it's just the surface because this is not the aim of this workshop, but it was important we recall that because you need to have this in mind, and especially this progressive realization and immediate obligation and the priority when you are going to do your monitoring. I'm checking the chat, but I'm looking at my team if there are any things to flag I should respond.
There is a question regarding digital mechanisms that can be used to monitor the right to education.
So more in practical terms. So we are going to go into that now as we talk about the monitoring, and we are going to share some tool. So we are going to show some tool. We haven't planned today to go specifically on some tools. So for instance, especially for civil society organizations, there are a tool called Kobo Collect, Kobo Toolbox. I don't know if some of you use it, but it's a tool you use on your mobile. So it's a digital tool. And you can, as you go, for instance, in your community, you have a list of questions and you collect data on the phone. And these data are centralized by, for instance, your organization and help to make the analysis. For the states, there are also some mechanisms for collecting data, but today we are not going to discuss this digital tool for collecting data. We may see if we can make some links in the resources as well. Today, what we are going to share is some tool or online tool that provide guidance and framework for you to do your monitoring. And we are going to share tool, which we are going to do now, on depending on who you are and which level you work. So there are tools that are more framed for Ministry of Education and actor working at states level. And there are tools, for instance, that are more framed for school monitoring. So we are going to show that now. I hope this responds partly your question. Is there another question I should, or is it fine?
There are questions about quality. There are questions about free education, but most of it, I think we will cover when we go into the monitoring part, where we will show you that you can monitor different aspects and different dimensions of the right to education, and then you can focus on one or more dimensions according to the objective of your activity. And if you are a government or a state representative, or if you're a civil society organization or a researcher. So just to make sure that you know that we will be answering all those questions throughout the workshop.
Sorry, I read the comment, but I cannot read everything. And we'll make sure I read after the session to respond. I see one question from RD about successful countries that have successfully adapted international standard. On this one, for instance, UNESCO have compiled some examples. So we have example in different, UNESCO are doing that regularly on different topics and sharing example. We may be able to share some resources on that, but it will depend on which topic, because again, like the dimension of the right to education is quite wide and there are different dimensions. So even now with all the emerging things around digital skill, this is new, but we can share some resources if this is helpful. Okay, I hope I have not missed any things, but we will check after, and if there are any things to respond, we'll respond. But the aim of this first part was really for you to know where to get the framework, the content, so depending of your focus entry, where to go, where to check, so you have the basis to do your monitoring from a human rights perspective. And so we will share a sheet with you. I'm going to show you that quickly. Is my screen still shared or not? Maybe not, no? Where it is it this one? Yeah. Sorry, I'm just sharing you, but this is something we are going to share after the session, but we can put it in the chat as well, you can have it. But we have created a workshop for you, sorry. As well a workshop, but a worksheet where you can check, make your own assessment of what supply are you at your national level. So international treaty, regional treaty, if there are some general comments, so these interpretations that apply for a specific topic, so you can list it because this may be useful. What is useful as well, in terms of guidance is to look at the concluding observation. I see Juliana asked me to address something. I don't know what it is, Juliana. Let me finish that. One thing I want to flag here, so here is constitutional framework and legislation framework, but there are some things that can be very useful when you are making the assessment of your legal framework and you are wanted to make some assessment about next steps for revising your law and policy, or even for the researcher when you go choosing a topic, or for civil society organization in your engagement with the state and your own monitoring. It can be very useful to look at the concluding observation and recommendations that have been made by UN treaty body for your country. So I'm going to take an example. So we've put the link here. Normally, if I click on it, it should work. I hope so, but I don't think this is the link I wanted to show you. So this is not the link I want to show you. Wait a second. I want to show you here. So you will find that in the resource report and recommendation. And so you have the one from the UN treaty bodies, and you have the one from for the UPR, and you have the country report for the UN special rapporteur. So for instance, if you look at the UN treaty bodies, so you select your country. So I'm going to change, no, maybe we have Egypt. I know there are a lot of people from Egypt. So for instance, you check Egypt. And here you have the list of the UN treaty bodies. So for instance, you check Convention on the Right of the Child. And here, this is by cycle. So you can check the last one and the last one. So there's the state's report plus all annexed. And there's something called concluding observation. Generally, it's at the bottom. So you have concluding observation here. So you click on it. So this was from the year. So I'm going to open it in English, but you can of course have it in Arabic. And so here, so you know this is a recent one. This is from last year. So last year, the Committee on the Right of the Child makes specific recommendation for Egypt related to the right to education. So I'm going just to make a keyword about education. Because they are specific. So you see there are recommendations regarding children with disability. So here you have information and recommendation, but I want to show you the section on education. So here, for instance, you see there are a full section on education. So here are the recommendations the states are doing to Egypt in our case. So, for instance, I recommend to ensure that all children have equal access to free and quality primary and secondary education, to increase the enrollment and retention rate of children in secondary education and particularly in rural areas. So this can help you as well when you do your monitoring. What do you have in your current law and policies that address the access of children in secondary education in rural area? Because maybe here there are some policy to adapt. They have made recommendations for the elimination of school violence, the improvement of school infrastructure, to address disparity. And here they link different groups. So we are going to discuss that now as we go for monitoring. But so this is just to point out to you that checking this recommendation for your country may really be very helpful as you do your monitoring, because you can check what you have done or what should be done. And here, for instance, I see the last one is around expansion of early childhood care and education and having an holistic policy. So that was just an example. And you will get again the link on the sheet where to access that. And I see there are a question I should respond. So I see, so I'm going to stop that. I respond the question, and then maybe we can move to more the monitoring. So there are a question. So the question is, when it is clear that the content of the right to education is not limited to access to education, but also the right to quality education. That's very important. It's not just about access, it's about quality. Then why does the government tend to simplify the right to education only by monitoring the participation rate and omit the measure of quality? Example, ensuring that all children can access education that is meaningful for their life and future. So they are monitoring for quality education as well. And there are examples of actually the states is not only monitoring access. This is maybe the information you easily see, because when you look at the data, for instance, in UNESCO, UAS or other database, you have information about enrollment rate, but monitoring is not just about that. So when you monitor quality education, you should monitor the rights of a teacher, the qualification of teacher, the infrastructure. So this does not show up as a number. There are some investigation you need to do. And this is where it's very useful. There are various actors that work together, because maybe the state is not able to monitor everything at all level. But when you do the inspection at school level, this is a monitoring of quality education. It's not just participation and enrollment. We are going to discuss that now. That's a very interesting question, but I think I will partly answer when we go in monitoring. Sometimes we said quality is too complicated to monitor. You know, access is easy. You count the number. So how you monitor quality? And quality is going to vary from a country to a country. Quality education is going to depend from your country, because quality depends of if your, for instance, curriculum is adapted to your context, to your country. If you have a curriculum developed in the US to be implemented in India, with a mind of US set, this is not quality education. You need to adapt that to the reality of the life of children in India, for instance. And so you can monitor this different dimension of quality. You can also monitor what framework have been developed to ensure quality education. So if there are any policies for teacher training, this will be an indication of quality education. So we'll go a bit in explaining this now when we talk about monitoring, but maybe you often access information of data of access, retention, enrollment rate, but there are more information to collect and information that are available on other dimensions as well. And this is where looking at the legal and policy framework can be very useful, because you can see what is planned as well for developing some dimension related to quality. So for instance, the curriculum, infrastructure, teacher training, for instance, and what's the aim of education, so what we want to translate. And so here is also, I'm turning also to civil society organization, is where you can engage with your states and challenge your states for change in the curriculum or in the policy to address this quality dimension. I hope this responds the question, what was asked. But otherwise, I see no more questions. Okay. So I'm turning to you, Juliana, because now we are really going to look more in the monitoring, and you see how everything is interlinked. So now we are going really to look into monitoring for you to understand the monitoring dimension from a human rights perspective, and sharing some tool with you. We cannot hear you, Juliana. Your microphone is off.
Go back to our Mentimeter surveys, and I would like you now to move to our next question. So if you open your phones, you probably will see the question, who can monitor the right to education and what for, in your screen. So take your time to answer these very important questions. We have here people from different backgrounds and working on different agencies and organizations. So we want to know who can monitor the right to education and what for. You should be able to answer the question now. And you can type as many answers as you wish. I'll give you a few minutes. This is an important one. Everything is important. Make sure you also try to say what for. So why each person is going to monitor, with what objective.
There are a lot of answers. Improve. National district. People. Education section, head of local government. Researcher. Research to make interpretational comments. Government for funding of education. Funders. Funders, you mean like, for instance, country donors that are going to support another country, so through aid development, or can you go up, Juliana, so I see what is up? UNESCO, I see on the chat. Agency under Ministry of Education, civil society organization, parliamentary board, university, ombudsman, yes. I see civil society because they are grassroots level and they know the issue at the ground better. That's very true. And that's why they are so useful for the states, because the states sometimes may not go so depth at ground level. And working with civil society organizations who are closer to the people and also who know better some dimension can be very useful.
Delphine, there is a message on the chat as well. Internal monitoring, preschool education agencies, local administration, central government, NGO.
Thanks, Reggie. I see in Ukraine there are states quality insurance service. So I guess this is a good example maybe of monitoring quality. Maybe this is something to share.
Yeah, there are some more responses, Delphine, in the chat.
Thanks, Reggie. I see United Agency are doing monitoring, and we were talking about the UN treaty body. They do monitoring as well, but they do it in collaboration with the states. So the states have to send some report on the implementation, and so there are dialogue between this agency.
There is also a point about local communities, parents and students themselves doing monitoring.
And this is a very interesting point as well, like the dimension of children and students, how we make sure we involve them in the monitoring we are doing. So either at organization, civil society organization level, or at states level. You know, you want to do a new, you want to do a monitoring to make an assessment of, I don't know, maybe the infrastructure of school, of the curriculum. How in your monitoring you include the voice of the one who are the primary concern. So how you organize the consultation to hear about themselves and what they would like to see as a change, or, you know, their experience. And this is a good way to tell you, like a UN Special Rapporteur on the right to education yesterday just launched a new consultation on youth around the right to education and calling for them to share their view on the implementation of the right to education at national level. So this is a call for all of you on maybe distribute this information widely and ensure like the young people, the students can contribute to the monitoring. It may help to adjust and address some challenge. They may have some creative idea on how we should respond to some situation. I see the importance of UNESCO in the chat. So what we see here is like there are really a diversity of of actor. I see industry policy innovation. I don't know, what is it? Ministry of Education in Jordan. So there's a Ministry of Education who, of course, have an important responsibility in monitoring the right to education because they are the ones who adopt law and policies. So they need to know what's the situation of the right to education in their country in order to adjust and change the policies, to see where are the gaps, what are the issues, and the issue change. You know, if you just are in a conflict situation, which is the case for some countries that are part of this workshop, the situation is not the same. You know, society are moving, so the implementation of the right to education is changing and moving. There are emerging issues. So now with the impact of the climate, the use of digital tool in education, make us need to assess what's the situation. And so to be able to respond. So that's one dimension of the states, like they need to have this information to address gap and to adopt adapted policy. Civil society organization as well, they bring another perspective, and this have been very well addressed in the conversation now, like in the activity, because they are at ground level. So they bring really specific information from the ground, but also on specific issues. There are organizations specialized in children with disabilities. They know very well this group. So they can collect and gather data and report about it. Researchers, they are very excellent skill in making an analysis and assessment of a situation. And we've seen in the response you send when you register for the workshop how many of you who are a researcher in university contribute to the work of the states in developing law and policies. I'm going to share my screen on the... So you will get that as a summary, but what is important is to see, depending on who you are, you won't have the same objective. So if it's the state who monitor, the state is willing maybe to know what the situation, decide as well how to share the budget, because maybe there are a new priority and we need to invest more funds for a specific group to help them access education, for instance, to allowing free access to secondary education for girls, because they are really the number of them are really high being out of school. You want to adopt maybe a new policy on digital education, so you need to know what's going on at ground level in terms maybe on connectivity as well, like can you develop this type of policy, how this is going to be implemented, because it's not just about developing law in policies, how they are going to be implemented at ground level. Civil society organization may want to monitor as well to raise awareness and have evidence on a specific issue so they can engage in a constructive dialogue with the states and hold them accountable as well if there are really serious gaps in some dimension of the right to education. And researchers as well like to contribute to the analysis of the situation at national level. And I think what is important is to see how all of them work together. No, all the objective is the realization of the right to education, and there are different entry to do that based on the objective of each of us and the type of collection. So we were mentioning like having available statistics, but there are also collection of information through interview, going on the ground, observing the situation. If you want to know the state of infrastructure, you need to visit school, have some inspection, and analysis, analyzing all this information. And is where experts, and that's why I'm turning to researcher, can be very helpful in doing that, because they have the expertise even to analyze budget or situation. So it's important you think about where you sit, where you work now in your whole area, and we've seen there are so diversity of participants today. What is your entry point when you do a monitoring? And which is your topic area? And this may depend as well of the priority in your country, for instance, if you are at the ministry level. So here is a summary of why to monitor. So as I said, this is all we want is to ensure the protection and realization.
We don't see your screen, Delphine.
Ah, sorry. Ah, so you didn't see my slide?
No.
Wait, sorry. Thanks for flagging that. So, sorry, I need to extract here. Why? Okay, so let me share my screen. And I hope if I go back here, not presented. No, it's not this one. I don't think this works. Yeah. Okay, so this was just I presented before, but you will get the slide with a summary of the role of different actors. And what I was showing you is this one as a summary. Oh, sorry, I go too fast. So while we monitor, the aim is to ensure the protection and realization of the right to education. This is the aim of all of us. And so we may monitor to verify the compliance with international, regional law and national law. So, you know, like if you work at ground level, you want to know if what has been adopted at national level is realized in practice. You want to maybe take stock of the implementation of the right to education to identify if there are any deprivation or implementation gap, to collect evidence to inform and the development of new policies. So this is just a summary of what we've just said. And they are all interconnected, no? It's they inform each of them. So what to monitor? And I would like you just to take a minute to just maybe for yourself note where you are now in your organization, in your department, if you are working at states level or in your research hub at university. Do you have right now a specific topic focus you work on and you have a particular objective? So just maybe note that for you because it will be useful like as we continue and the conversation tomorrow as well, you have this in mind, like what is your priority and your need in monitoring now? And so why we monitor? But this is going to depend who monitor and for what. So it's just what we mentioned just before. So there are one things we can do a comprehensive monitoring. So this is mainly state generally. You want to have an overview of the implementation of the right to education. You want to verify the compliance with international and regional treaty. You want to take stock of situation of the education system. You want to plan for your new education strategic plan. And so you make an overall assessment. And in that case, you may select general information. You may not be able to go very depth in one specific topic. But you may also want to do a targeted monitoring. And this is important. You decide what is your focus. So you may have a geographical scope. So maybe in your country, there are regions that is more disadvantaged. And disadvantaged, and so you want to know what's the situation. Just to give you an example, in France we have territories in Africa, and this region have huge inequalities. This is just unbelievable. We just have a new report from Human Rights Watch showing how the situation of the right to education in this country is really like unacceptable. And so you may want to know, okay, what's the situation in this territory where there is so much inequality, and do a proper mapping of this territory, the region, to know what policies to take and to address the situation. This can be the case as well in your country where some regions are more impacted by environment, where there are more floods, and so the schools are more impacted, or because they are a country in one region. So you may want to know what exactly happened in this region in order to address it. You may want to make an assessment over time, how the situation have evolved over time. Like, is there more enrollment of girls in university across time? What's the situation? Is there some change? You want to focus maybe on one topic. Someone asked about the importance of secondary education in the chat. All levels of education are important and all dimensions of education are important. We have a tendency to focus on primary because it has been set as a priority, because if you don't receive primary, you cannot receive secondary. But all dimensions are important and the states have the obligation to invest in all these dimensions. And for instance, at the moment, there are a lot of mobilization around early childhood care and education, because if there are already inequalities and discrimination at this level, it's have an impact on all the rest of level of education. And so the same for secondary education. If you manage to reach primary, but at secondary education, the girls drop out, there are not enough investment, you will never get the people to access higher education and to have the capacity to invest and in the development of your country. So monitoring should be made at all levels. And for the states have the responsibility to make the monitoring for all levels and to invest in all levels. For civil society organization, it will depend on their area of focus and expertise. You may want to target a specific group, either because your organization is working on this one, or because in your country this is a particular issue. So in country where there are migration, so I'm thinking about Jordan or Egypt, where we know there are a flow of migration and refugees there, you may want to assess what's the situation and what are the needs and how this impact your whole education system. As an example, in Lebanon, when there's this flow of migrants, it was so much migrants and refugees in the country that they have to divide the organization of the school between morning and afternoon. So morning for general students, I mean the Lebanese one, and for the specific need of migrants and refugees in the afternoon. So when this situation happens, you need to know what the situation, what the need to address the situation, maybe in terms as well of providing language support or other things, and even to ask for external support from other states. But you need to assess what the situation is. And you may want to focus on some dimension. So this is what we will do tomorrow. Tomorrow we will really look into some dimension and use the tool to monitor access and participation, early childhood care education, and private involvement in education. So how to do that specifically and how to address this issue. So how we do that, and this is where we are going to share the tool in a minute, but as I said in introduction, when you monitor from a human rights perspective, the importance is to use the human rights framework. So this is a common reference. We have a legal framework. This is what we have agreed at national level, let's say within your parliament, and maybe some agreement you agree with at regional or international level. And this is your framework, and based on that, you are going to see what's the situation in law, policies, and practice. And so the important things to understand when we monitor education from a human rights perspective is we are not only monitor what's happened for individuals. So can, for instance, girl access education? What's the situation of individual with disability? We are also looking at what the state is doing, because they have obligation, as we discussed in introduction, duty bearers and right holders. So we are going to look at the effort they are made. So either you are the states, you need to assess what you have done to move towards the full realization. And if you are more in the civil society side, you are going to see and track what the states have done. But this is very important, because maybe sometimes you may not change the situation in one day. But if you have adopted law and policies that help to move towards the full realization, you are in the right direction. It's not like we have a magic trick and we change everything in one day. And especially when we are facing challenging time in terms of conflict or emergency situation, all these things, financial cut. I mean, there are an economic crisis at the moment as well. So you may have to choose and make some priorities, but at least we can assess what the efforts are made, where the money is mobilized, what the framework we are developing to guarantee the right of specific group individual to address some area of the right to education. And so this is an important dimension when we monitor from a human rights perspective. And so this is just to tell you how we do that. There are some, these have been developed by the High Commissioner of Human Rights. And I flag it here because it's what we use in our monitoring tool at RTE. But there are different types of indicators you can look at when you do your monitoring. So there are this, what we call the structural indicator. This is where we assess the state's commitment. So we look at this legal framework, the ratification of treaties, the law, the mechanisms in place for, in case there are violations at school level, who you report in your country. So that's the structures that are in place that guarantee the right to education in your country. Then there are all these process indicators that are more the policies that have been adopted. So for instance, if you have adopted a positive measure for facilitating the enrollment of indigenous people in secondary school, for instance, or you have a specific budget allocation for family with low income revenue and how, you know, they can support them to access maybe higher education. So this is going to be all the process indicators. Have you developed a policy for removing stereotype in the curriculum and in the type of pedagogy regarding girls, for instance? So all this dimension. And then there are all these outcome indicator, where we measure the realization of the right to education and the enjoyment. So this is where you are going to have statistics about enrollment rates. You are going to see how the children feel at school. You know, like can I get access to education in country? Like, what's the situation in country in conflict? What's the situation? Are the schools available? Are they used for military purpose? So you go on the ground and you see how far this have been realized and what's the quality of education on the ground. So that will be more outcome indicators. And as we mentioned, of course, they are quantitative data. So this is mainly statistics and numbers. But the usefulness of qualitative data when you monitor the right to education are really important. Like getting on the ground, getting interview, listening to the teacher, to the parents, to the students, to collect data on the situation is really important to better understand the situation and adopt the proper response in terms of law and policies. So I'm not going to go in detail on the comparative table. You will get on the slide, but we get example in the slide about the type of indicators and what is the objective when you use them and the type of the example of information. I mentioned some of you now. You see, for instance, in process, you have the pupil and teacher ratio, because this will give you an indication on, you know, the quality of education actually and the availability of teacher for students. So you will see that, and here there are some examples as well of quantitative and qualitative data. Because there, you know, for instance, if you think about displaced children in time of conflict or because of environment, you may know, okay, in our country, in the capital, there are X number of migrants, displaced children because of war, and they're out of school, but this is not enough if you want to address the issue. Why is they out of school? Here you need to make interview. You need to go on the ground and to understand why they are not in school. Maybe because they need administrative papers they don't have, so maybe you should adjust your policies and ensure like they don't need to provide administrative paper to access school. Maybe it's because they don't have there are a big language barrier, and so how we can mitigate that, providing some language support. So you will need this qualitative data in order to know the situation and address it. And so is there where disaggregated data are super important. When you do your monitoring, if you really want to address inequalities specifically, you need to know what's the situation for different groups, but also for different region. So this is essential to address deprivation and inequality, and to have to inform targeted public policies. They are not always available. So in some countries, for instance, it's forbidden to collect data by specific group because of non-discrimination. We don't want to get information. But if it's not a law and it's not available, you cannot adopt the proper measure. So this can be a challenge that need to be addressed. But if there are no information on specific group, it makes them invisible in the statistics. So if you don't know how specific minority groups access education, and you cannot know if you need to take a measure to address this, and what type of measure. So as I said, you can make disaggregation by level of education. So there may be a lot of enrollment at primary level and less at secondary level, because we know it may be less free. There are some challenge, for instance, children's working or girls getting pregnant, and there may be some measures that prevent them to access to school. So you may want to have information by level of education. Rural and urban, we know there are a lot of inequality between urban and rural, but you need to assess the level of inequality. And is there a region where there are more inequality, and maybe you should prioritize this region before another one. And grown-up discrimination is, all the specific groups that you should look at in order to see if you need to adopt specific measure, including positive measure to address it. And there are some guidance in General Comments 13. I've put as well in the resource sheet, we have put a guidance note on the importance of disaggregated data and how to collect disaggregated data that have been developed by ECCE-Net, a network on organization working on economic, social, and cultural rights. But this is fundamental when you do monitoring. Even looking at the budget, what type of budget is allocated by region, give you an understanding of why there may be inequality, including in terms of quality education. So I see there are video, but you will have the link accessed when you get the slide. So we are going to look at the tool now, but I'm just going to pause for a minute because I want to know if there are any questions or things I should answer before we go in the tool, so you can really get into it and access it. I'm turning to my team as well if you have flagged something. Oh.
So if there are any specific questions, you can type it in the chat. There is a question about, I think it's outsourced monitoring. Is that it?
So what is outsourced monitoring?
Can you provide us with an example?
It means if there are no reference, or like maybe interview of, I don't know, parents when government.
So it's external monitoring, I think you mean, That it's, yeah, when government hires a company to conduct monitoring and doesn't do it
Well, I don't know
directly
if,
within its agencies.
yeah, I don't know if I'm the best person to respond that, but I think it's all the monitoring, I try to respond that in a more broader way. First, I mean, all sorts of monitoring may be useful. The things is who monitor, and if companies are objective and you guide them to, they have a proper methodology and they monitor the information they need for you and deliver it, it may be useful. If there are an interest between the monitoring, so now there are all this development as well of monitoring learning outcome, but we we develop things now and curriculum to fit the way we monitor learning outcome. This does not work, so I'm thinking as well about I wanted to give you another example, but it's just disappear. Yeah, I'm thinking, and this is resources we are going to share with you. So this is, for instance, in conflict context, conflict affected context, where it's sometimes very difficult even for the states to send state representatives there to collect data. And here you will not find any company to help you. The only people that can give you information are the people on the ground. So often civil society organization working there with the parents, with the students, who can give you the information you need to know what's happened on the ground. And in that case, and in this situation, sometimes researchers are even not able to get there. It's too dangerous, so they don't go. The only one who have information for you are the one on the ground. And they may not be experts. They are parents, students, teachers. And so you can guide them on collecting some data with survey, but you may to be flexible in the type of information you collect. Maybe this have not have the level of requirements you will do for instance, a statistic data with all the requirements. So you be flexible in the way this information is collected and used, but it's still going to provide you so useful information. We have done that recently, us in Sahel region in Africa, in country where there are conflict and the state is really struggling to even get information in this area. The partner on the ground, the students, the teachers, the parents, they provide information, and this can be shared with the states. And even if it's not fully comprehensive, maybe it's just a selection of some information and provide some information of what the situation is and what measures should be taken. And in that case, for instance, we learn like a lot of children were losing school for 2 years because they have no education option for most of them. And what's happened to them is they turn to enrollment in the conflict, they start to work. Some of them are really facing some situation of risk of using drugs and things like that. And maybe there are some measures we should take into account, even to support some of the organization on the ground that can be able to provide support. So that's just to adjust. I'm not the one who is in a position to answer who are in the best place to collect data. You need to be transparent and objective and really inform your monitoring. And if there are an interest of if the monitoring is biased, this is an issue, but this needs to be assessed in each.
Delphine,
Yeah.
I just want to clarify one aspect just based on the chat messages. There is a difference between the monitoring that what we are talking about now and also the monitoring and evaluation component that is integrated into the education systems. So the monitoring, what we are discussing from a human rights perspective, it evaluates every aspect of it, including whether the country, the state has legal provision, whether there is a funding allocated, whether there is an implementing aspect, even it assesses whether there is a monitoring mechanism in place. So in that way, if a country, if the monitoring is outsourced in a particular educational system, so when we do this monitoring from a human rights perspective, we can also assess that particular aspect as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Raji. Is there other question? Or... So I see we have, and thanks for all of you who are sharing your perspective from your countries. That's super useful. We look at all the comments you share, and that's super rich. I see where we can have monitoring report on all country. So you will have that as well. So you mean monitoring report on country. So you will find that. Let me share my. You will. Okay, let me find this. I'm going to show you something where I share my screen. So I'm going to show you two things. I share my screen. Okay, so I'm just going on our website. On our website, so this is one thing, but I'm going to show you two things. So on our website, we have a section called National Implementation and Where to Find Information. When you get there, you know where to find information about country. So ratification, statute, constitution, report. So here there are a list of civil society organizations and others who do report on different countries. So for instance, GCPA, they provide a report on situation under attack. I don't see here, but Amnesty as well provide report. Us, we have also, if you go on resources here, you can select also information by country. So let's pick one, Bangladesh, for instance, because it's one of you. So for instance, on our website, you may find information as well on some topic that provide information that have been made by different participants, different actors, sorry. In the resource sheet we are going to share is here. Here you will find something called collecting data. And here you will have all the links to get information. So the first one is about ratification statute. This is what we look at just before. On national implementation, there are different topics where you can get information. So for instance, the UNESCO Observatory, this is very useful because for each country, you may have all information around the legal framework. So you can check your country and you choose one of your country. I don't know. Azerbaijan? I think we have Azerbaijan. And so here you will get information about the ratification. You will get information about some monitoring. So all the comments that have been made, for instance, for the Universal Periodic Review, you will get the recommendation for your country. The CRC recommendation, you will get the information. Normally it's up to date, but in case you can, if you have a doubt, you can always check on the link I've showed before. And you will get the constitutional framework, legislation framework. And so you were talking about reports. Normally UNESCO, they don't provide this. They only provide information from national law and policies. But you can, for instance, this one is on education, content and quality. So you will know about the legal framework. In terms of country reports, here, so OECD country and European Commission national policy platform. So this is more for European country and OECD country, but you will find information as well on the context on the ground. On Planet Police, normally is it's from UNESCO is mainly law and policy as well. But you can.
If I may suggest, all the different links will be available in the worksheet that will be sent to you. We only have 10 minutes, so I see time flies, and we would love to continue discussing longer, but we have a 10-minute to the end of our workshop. So maybe we could go into showing how the use of the different monitoring tools. I think that would be useful before we close the session.
And just to flag before we move, thanks, Juliana, in the report, here you will see UN Special Rapporteur report, so you have also some country reports. So it's not about all country, but you may find also information and guidance there. And if this is not enough, you can always go back to us to provide more guidance on where to find information. So we have 10 minutes, and I'm just going to highlight some of the tools you can use when doing the monitoring from a human rights perspective. We are going to share the link with you. And tomorrow, that's the aim of tomorrow. Tomorrow we will go and use this tool and really use them in practice. And you can, we will have some work exercise, and you will get familiar with them. And if you have time, also before tomorrow, you can go and explore them. But I'm going to just present them quickly so you know they exist, because maybe tomorrow in your workshop you may not look at all of them. So the first one is our monitoring guide, and so we will go deeper tomorrow, but it's on our website. So if you look, monitoring guide, so this is our monitoring guide where we explain step by steps how to monitor, to make focus, collect data, and create report and do advocacy. Advocacy is mainly for civil society organization, but bear in mind, and this I'm saying that and flying that to the participants who are member of Ministry of Education. Actually, having report may help you to do your advocacy internally. So, for instance, when there are decisions about the allocation of the budget, if you have a strong report about the importance of investing in early childhood care education with data and an analysis about the situation in your country, you may advocate internally for a budget to be allocated for early childhood care education in your department at state level, for instance. So advocacy is not civil society organization with state, it's also within your state system. So here is a guide, and when you click on some, you will explore it, but when you click on, for instance, identifying deprivation and equality, you will get guidance on how you use it, but we'll go more deeper on it tomorrow. We have indicator selection tool, because this is really our area of expertise at RT, working on monitoring. So this indicator selection tools, it's you choose a topic, or a group or level of education. So let's say, for instance, armed conflict. So this is your topic, so you want to get some data. And here you have a list of results with some different type of indicators. And for instance, here is about the enrollment rate. And for each indicator, you will get information about the definition of indicators, some comments, where you can find the information, the level of disaggregated data, and the reference to the human rights.
Can you maybe make it bigger?
Yeah, let me try.
Zoom in. Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
So that's an example, but I really invite you to go on the tool and explore it, and we will do that tomorrow anyway. I'm just going to see if I can quickly show another one. So here, you know, is more going to be, if there is a specific measure to ensure that previously out-of-school children remain in school, and the same, like you will have some comments and the reference to education standards. We also have developed thematic guide. So tomorrow, for the one who work on ECCE, you will mainly work on this guide on monitoring early childhood care education with Raji. We have one on higher education, and we have one on education under attack. Actually, we have two because one is for journalists. And on this guide, I'm going to show this one because tomorrow you will work on early childhood care education. But on each guide, when you will go on it, you get information about the frameworks that apply, and we help because on the monitoring tool I've just shown you, you have a list of indicators, but on this guide, we tell you how to organize. So I'm going to show you. we help you to organize your indicators around table. Where it is? It's far. So you will have some tables. So for instance, if you want to collect information on sex, gender, identity, and sexual orientation that you may have found in the selection tool, here you will have guidance on more structured guidance on how to do that. And each time, so you have the state's obligations that relate to the content of the right to education and the legal framework at international level, because of course at national level we won't have it. Some questions to have, and then you will have the indicators, and when you will click on it, you will get directly to the indicator on our selection tool. There are another tool we would like to flag. It's called Promoting Rights in School. This has been developed by us with ActionAid, and is really to monitor the right to education at school level. So here is mainly for a teacher or organization working at school level, and it's organized around 10 rights. You will go through it, and you will see there are some table. So they always reference about legal framework, and you have some table like that where you have some question and you can respond to it. That's something we will look at it also in the workshop for some of you, but just have a look, especially the one who work at a country at school level. Sorry. The other one we wanted to highlight is this guidelines from UNESCO. So this is the guideline UNESCO has developed for monitoring the right to education. This is mainly for states and a general overview. How this move? Sorry, I wanted to zoom and you don't see, but there are a list of indicators for core structural indicator, process indicators, and outcome that are really general. So this is mainly a tool for people working at states level on how to analyze the current status of the right to education in your country, but not going in depth on a specific topic, more generally. So that's the second tool we wanted to flag. And there are another one, and this we will go into it tomorrow for the one who will discuss non-state actor involvement in education. This is a tool that has been developed by UNESCO for monitoring the implementation of the right to education and the inclusion of the right to education in education planning and the development of strategic plans. So for you review your strategic plan or for preparing and developing your strategic plan. So this one is also mainly for states, even it can be useful, of course, for any actors, but is mainly useful for states. Is very well done, and we'll check that tomorrow when we talk about non-state actor. And there are video and explanation, so I don't go in detail now because it's time, but there are plenty of tool and grid, so you will get access to that. And as you see, there are some explanation here with video. And the last resource I wanted to share is this one on monitoring the right to education in conflict-affected context, because I've seen many of you have flagged that when you submitted your sheet, and there are some challenging in monitoring the right to education in conflict-affected setting. And so we have just published a brief with some recommendation, so you will get access to that. So that's the guide, and is available in Arabic as well. So for the our colleague from Arabic country. I see we get 1 minute just before we close. I would like to turn to just Raji and also Said. So we'll share the resources. We'll share the worksheet for compiling your legal framework. We are going to share a sheet specific for ECCE. Raji, I'm going to turn to you on that. And I want to tell you, any question you may have, prepare your question tomorrow on what we have said today, because we can have follow-up conversation and answer your question tomorrow as we start the specific workshop. because tomorrow we'll go very in a practical exercise on the different thematics. So Raji, I'm turning to you.
Thanks, Delphine. So as Delphine has briefed, we have developed a tool for monitoring early childhood care education, in particular in specific. So herewith, I shared the link to download the monitoring guide. So you can go to our website and download the monitoring guide. Along with that, I am also sharing a worksheet. That worksheet is basically a simplified version of the whole monitoring process, how we can do, engage in a monitoring in a very simplified way. While we do the exercise tomorrow, what it would be great that if we can go through both of them before coming for the session tomorrow. Thank you so much.
I'm sharing the link in the chat as well. So the worksheet on the legal framework, and we'll share an email, but maybe if you can just get the link now, and I'm going to share Raji one as well here.
You already did.
So you have it, but we'll share the PDF as well. ECCE worksheet for tomorrow. And really feel free to come with questions tomorrow. We'll be happy to respond. I know it was a lot of information today, but we needed this basis to go in depth in the practical things tomorrow. So thanks for all the information you share on the chat, and we are really looking forward to interacting more with you tomorrow, because the group will be smaller. I don't know, Juliana, Raji, if you want to add something, on José Luis, if you want to add something, if we are here.
I think I would just like to add that thank you for these 2 hours. This is midway. We are midway of the journey, so I think there will be tomorrow opportunities for all the participants to ask questions, to get more clarification, then to go into more depthness as well. So the main message is, please make sure that you join tomorrow, because this is really a 2-part series. It's not the same to just have consume today's session and not have the second part. So it makes sense what we combine it. So we will be bothering you with reminders and messages, but just echoing the message now that will be important for you to join tomorrow, so that a lot of the things that were started today will make more sense tomorrow as well. That's it on our end. Thank you, Delphine, Juliana, and Raji for the session today, and look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow and to have an even more interactive session as well.